Yo, hello everybody. This is the Queen Azizah, and I am back with an amazing Hustle and Motivate series that we're doing. We are doing Money Mondays. Now, I know this is different from anything that I have done. We talk about money for sure, but just to have a segment all about wealth building, finances, money, how we can be better stewards over our money. I'm very excited of this platform and for this particular segment, and I'm excited to bring my guest, David Mueller, on. He will be our wealth and financial expert. He's from New York Life Insurance, and he'll be giving us the ins and out on how we can just be better and with building our wealth and understanding different financial instruments and just learning just some tips on how we can generate more Monday because it's Money Monday. So, like, be used to our faces right now. Um, we'll be here every Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking to you guys about some amazing money tips. So, David, how are you doing today?
I'm great. It's Monday, so nice sunny start to the week. I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you. So, let's get into who you are and what you do and why you do what you do.
Okay. So of course, my name is David Mueller. Being a registered rep with New York Life, I work with a lot of people on a lot of different products, whether it's variable or fixed. Just showing them how to get the best bang for their buck and how to show them, how to break those generational curses and create that wealth to pass on to the next generation. Um, Now, my reason why is growing up in my family, I was born out in Indiana. So, the sticks. Growing up, we didn't even have like regular running water. My grandparents, though, were always big on, especially my grandma, managing her money. And unfortunately, I saw a lot of the darker side of things that happen. And thankfully, my grandparents were pretty well prepared and they didn't have to struggle as much because of it. So I was about 4 years old, I believe, and my grandpa had a brain aneurysm, and
Hmm.
thankfully he survived it. But thank you, UC. Of course, they're out here always saving lives.
Yeah.
And afterward, for the next 10, 15 years, just kind of he was a union worker, so he had a pension to fall back on, but also they had some policies that they used. And with their whole life policy they had, he was able to draw on that to help cover the extra expenses. And again, thankfully, they didn't have to struggle too much. But once my grandma had passed away, um, they didn't have like a trust or anything set up. So when my grandpa passed away a few years later, unfortunately, the house I grew up in got taken back just because no one in my family could. They didn't have like the credit. It's hard to explain, but yeah, banks are greedy, unfortunately.
Right.
And after that happened, I just kind of dedicated myself to one, showing people how to not go through that same struggle in terms of that happening, and also I want to be able to get the house back at some point. But that's a personal thing for me. The main thing is I just want to help people not go through those same struggles, because after it happened, the family kind of fell apart. No one else really had a plan for anything because my grandma like ran all of it. And even though my mom, she had a few businesses, now she does real estate. She likes to flip houses, but even then, once I got into my role and tried to get her started with some protection for herself, she found out the hard way that she had a heart issue, and she got declined. And long story short is, outside of what I'm doing, what she's doing to have short term money, she's not really prepared for the long term, whether that be long term care or actual life insurance. But I digress. The biggest thing is showing people how to budget, and showing them how to prepare for their future.
Right. So, and I'm glad that you gave us that background because this just really shows like you and your family have experienced a lot of what a lot of other people experience because of the lack of knowledge and information in regards to finances. Because it is a different language. There's different tools you need to know. It's a different world, which I'm so excited on why we decided to do this segment. Um, let's talk about budgeting
Yeah.
because Budgeting is a word they always tell us that we need to do, but how to actually budget, you know, especially I know for me, budgeting as an entrepreneur versus like a regular 9 to 5 worker, they get a steady paycheck. It's easy to budget when you know you got a set amount of money coming in. But as an entrepreneur, one day I could be making $15,000. One day I made $5. The next day it's 500. So the money fluctuations are different every month. The amount I make, I try to average towards a certain number, but sometimes I can go above that number and go below that number. So sometimes it's like, how do you even budget? Where do you start with budgeting? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. So the way I like to do it is I like to break down, the 100% into three different segments. I do 50 for life, and that's just your day to day. 30% of that goes towards your bills and your debt, and then that final 20% I like to put towards, building things for myself, my business, and my brand, and towards investing. Now, like you said, being an entrepreneur or just even being a 9 to 5 worker, that's hard to do, especially if, you know, I mean, life happens quick. Look at right now. I was just having a conversation with one of my cousins. He went from spending $600 a month on his groceries to now he's spending over 900, close to 1,000. And inflation is definitely hitting a lot of people hard. So trying to find your way around that is difficult. But again, sticking close to that percentage, I like to keep doing that. It's worked for me. And going back to your up and down roller coaster of income. What I try to do is get towards that 3 to 6 month safety cushion, so that way it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel as much of a struggle to put that 20% away towards yourself and working on your investments. Um, but yeah.
Okay. And okay, so we're in like a lot of people's favorite season, income tax season.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's going to be getting a few extra thousand. Not everybody. Some people are getting a few extra $1,000. Um, what would be your best tips as far as budgeting and saving that you can give to those people? Like, what can they do to make those dollars work for them?
Yes, definitely. Because I know a lot of people like to go, shopping, and that's their bonus money for the year, right? But for me, instead of going that shopping or doing those extra DoorDash orders, I would much rather see people putting them into their bank and keeping it there, as that safety cushion. Because especially if you're not building towards your credit and paying that down and making sure your credit score is good, and that car that you go out and buy, put that down payment on, they're going to wax you. I mean, I've gotten waxed by it myself when I was in college, and I had to, use my income tax to buy my first car for myself. So, I mean, it sounds great. I know sometimes it's hard to do because you do need that vehicle, but instead of going something more flashy, go with what's practical. Or, and that's only if you have to. If not, like I said, put that money away. Use that same principle of that 50, 30, 20, and pay off some of them debts. Put a little bit towards yourself, your investment, and watch how that money grows over the long term, because it will grow, and it's usually in a nice way.
Okay. So when you talk about budgeting, you say you had the breakdown. Is what was the numbers again? You said 20% for
20.
yourself, and
Yep.
that's like if you get a paycheck, correct?
Paycheck, or even if you're on that roller coaster of being a business owner. I mean, obviously things do happen, and there might be that one month where you can't go buy it, but as long as you kind of can stick to that principle, it works out in the long run.
Okay. Yeah. So 20% for you, and then you take what was the other percentage?
Yeah, 30% for your debt and for your
30% for that.
bills, and then 50% for your day to day life.
Okay. Yeah, I hope y'all got that. 20, 30, 50. 20, 30, 50, guys. That's a great ratio to have. Okay. So what are some other ways that I guess what are the benefits of budgeting? Because a lot of people when they hear budgeting, they don't like that word budgeting because it's like you can't tell me what not to do with my money. I want to I want to do what I want to do with my money. But what are some of those benefits on how budgeting can help just from your experience with working with your clients?
Yeah, definitely. Because you always hear folks out here that I don't want to use the word complain, but they have issues where they want to live their dreams, right? They want to own their own business at some point. They want to move to that city that they've always wanted to go to, and because they keep spending that money on the short term and buying that pair of shoes or that new jacket, getting those weekly haircuts, um, that short money adds up. And while it feels good and it kind of satiates that short term, feeling, if you actually put that money away, let's say it's even for like 3 4 years, and you get that return on investment, you could turn around and take that same money, pay yourself back as a loan. So you're already growing yourself back, your money back. You're not paying that to a bank or to a creditor. Um, you can still have those things. I mean, I know it sucks having to wait a couple years to have that, but I mean, I would much rather be able to pay myself back to take money out to buy something in a couple years as opposed to constantly owing somebody else for it. I know Karma and like those different apps. I think was it Aspire is another one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's cool because you can break that money down and they say zero interest, but still, you're constantly owing somebody and you're constantly paying something else as opposed to building your own credit, building your own, source of income that's also paying you in the form of a dividend, possibly. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways. I always like to think of those three buckets. You got, let me actually pull it up real quick. So you got taxable, tax deferred, of course, and you got tax free. So tax never. I like to get as much money into that tax never as possible. Um, Whereas, depending on how you like to put your money away, I know some people like just put it in a saving. I know a lot of people like to just put it in their mattress, but you don't really get a return on investment in that. So once you have that 3 to 6 month, safety cushion for life, which I actually had to take advantage of myself recently, um, you want to start putting that money away as much as possible towards that long term future. Um, because yeah, it, life comes at you fast.
Yeah, it definitely comes, and it's good to have that cushion. Okay, so you mentioned a few apps that are great financial apps for people to use. What are like your top five financial apps you think everybody should have? Are there five top financial apps, or are your top three? What are the best apps that we need to have to our phones right now?
I mean, like I said, I think Aspire is one of the good ones. Karma, but again, they're only good for if you like, you really wanted to buy that gift for somebody, or you really needed to have that suit for that interview, because they are 0% interest in terms of like how they break down. I mean, I use Credit Karma, to keep track of my budget and my finances. Another good one is, oh my God, let me pull it up real quick, just because it's been a while since I looked at it. um, but another one is Experian. That's what it was. So Experian, I know Robinhood used to be a favorite for a lot of other people, but they've been having some issues lately. So if you really want to look at investments or like actual finance, it's better to get with an investor or somebody that's actually doing their job.
I definitely, yeah. Okay, that is super cool. So we mentioned we'll be talking. We talked about budgeting. Let's talk about ways we can make and earn extra cash, and what should we do with the extra cash we earn? Because a lot of times we get some extra cash that we wasn't expecting. We gonna spend it.
Exactly.
what
So
what should we do?
So one thing, and this is kind of where I wasn't necessarily want to go into it right away, but what you want to do is, at least for myself, what I've done is I've forced myself to put that money away. So whether it be like for me with whole life insurance or with like I like variable products just because you get a little more return on investment. It's more for your more aggressive people, but you know I have a policy taken out for it's like $100 a month. So it makes me put that money away. And with that investment, it's tax free. So by putting that money away every month, not only is it growing where I'm going to be able to take advantage of it in a few years, but it's tax free. So Uncle Sam already got his little pig. He's not going to take any more out. And even then, let me take that back. Uncle Sam doesn't touch it at all because of the fact that there's this nice little tax law lingo that they have for where life insurance falls in that little niche where you don't pay taxes on it because of what it's used for. And here in about 5, 7 years, I'm going to be able to turn around, and if I need something for a new car, or just recently with my whole epilepsy diagnosis, turns out that stuff's pretty expensive. If I ever need money for that, I can go in, take that money out as a loan, tax free, 0% interest, and pay myself back for it. Um, and just watch it continue to grow until I'm in retirement and I got like $1 million sitting there. So it's kind of a nice way. Not only are you forcing yourself to put that money away, but the return on investment is a lot better than just leaving it sitting in your savings account. Just because what savings is like 0.125%.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them, yeah. With how I have mine set up over time, now of course you might see something fluctuate over the years, but yeah, I mean, I'll take 10% over 0.125 all day.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And so, guys, as we get in deep into these segments, David will definitely be sharing more on different life insurance policies that you can use, not just for your final expenses, but using them for things you need now. We'll definitely be getting all into that type of information, and I'm glad he was able to share just a little bit, because a lot of us, we want to make extra cash to take care of things, but you never think about making extra cash and earning extra cash that go towards building you wealth, or because a lot of times we make extra cash just to have some extra cash to do something. We're not looking at it long term. And I know one of the reasons why I thought putting this segment together was a great idea, to help more people think long term when it comes to their wealth. A lot of us just think, let's get past today, let's make it from month to month. You know, we ain't even thinking about year to year. But that generational wealth that we're all talking about and all wanting to represent, that comes from having that long term view about our wealth and things that we can do with the money we have now, and how that can build for our better future for tomorrow. So,
And
um, no,
sorry,
go.
I was saying, I mean, that's the biggest thing, and that's why I chose to get into this industry, and why again, like you said, I wanted to put this segment together with you. Is everybody and anybody can have access to wealth. You just have to be willing to commit to it. Um, which, like I said, that's the reason why I force myself to have to pay that bill every month. Yeah, it's a bill, but it's actually going towards paying myself. That's the biggest way I try to look at it. Is
Mm-hmm.
are you paying a company, or are you paying yourself? I would much rather pay myself. And even then, being 31, with my spare time, I don't know if I mentioned that, but like I go and DoorDash myself. Now, not everybody has a vehicle and can do that, but there are different ways, to take advantage of that spare time to put towards that bucket that, you want to have for retirement, or even if it's just to have here in a few years. Um, that little nest egg. That's when they're talking about, when we were growing up.
Right. Yeah. Because I guess money has changed so much since then.
I mean, you
It's
went
definitely
from,
changed.
one person be able to afford for a whole household, and now you got both partners working, and hell, half the time you even have the kids working just to be able to afford. One of my friends just shared something about the Wall Street Journal's advice for people here that are struggling with their incomes is to not eat breakfast. So
Mm,
yeah, it's different times for sure.
right. So what are some of the things, like, let's getting back to budgeting, what are some common mistakes you see people make when it comes to budgeting?
Um, when it comes to budgeting, well, one is they usually are budgeting for the wrong things. They get way more excited, like, again, about that trip, about that thing to make them feel good in the short term. I mean, you like to use what we have is we actually have a nice little. Let me see if it's still here. A
And
personal.
I think you could share your screen too if you wanted to.
Yeah, I would say let me do that real quick. I had to find it. Um,
And while he's doing that, for everybody who's tuning in, I am Azizah. This is the Hustle and Motivate podcast series. This is our new segment called Money Mondays, sponsored by New York Life Insurance, where we'll be talking about how you can build generational wealth. I have David Mueller. He is a financial service professional, and he's giving us the game right now. Just tips that we could all use when it comes to finances. He's sharing his screen, so I'm gonna pull it up here for us. Okay, so what we're looking at?
all right, so it's just a personal budget worksheet. So it's a nice little breakdown if you go over your finances, and you can go back a couple months or you can try to project. But a nice breakdown of it is shows you what your income is, whether it's passive or from working, and then what all you're spending that money on. So that way, because a lot of people don't actually ever break down what they're spending their money on or how they're getting, just their income. So this is to me a huge key here, because if you don't know where your money's going and how it's coming in, then how can you ever actually set up a budget for yourself? And
Hmm. Yeah, so it has everything breaking down to your basic monthly expenses to discretionary monthly expenses. Okay.
so your wants, needs, and then here's at the bottom what you want to do towards working towards them goals, whether it be that trip you want to take next year or towards your actual retirement. So it's nice.
Okay, I like that. So speaking, this brought me another question. What are some okay, we talked about long term and short term goals when
Hmm.
it comes to finances. What are some what are long term goals? 'Cause I know a lot of people, like, for me, and this is like talking about how my financial literacy to a certain extent, like, what are my long term goals when it comes to finances? I had to sit there and think about it. What should be some people's long term goals when they're talking about money? Where should their mind be headed?
A few different things. So one is definitely your actual retirement. So a lot of people think that they can get by with their 401ks, and unfortunately, I have to break that news that that's not the case. So you want to make sure that you're working towards that as much as possible, just because again, some people might put, let's say their company does 3% matching, so they're sitting there throwing 6% in and counting on that, to grow. But with your 401k, while it is nice to have a company matching it, you only want to do the matching because you don't have as much control over those investments. Some companies might give you just like a tier where it's like aggressive, standard, and conservative, and that's about as much control as you get. You have no, and so with that, that's where you want to get with someone to actually talk about your personal IRA, and work towards that. And again, going back to those three buckets that we were talking about before, and some other long-term goals that not everybody thinks about as much is, if you're able to ever to get disabled, because believe it or not, 3 out of 5 Americans, become disabled at some point over their lifetime, which obviously affects your ability to bring in an income, and that affects all of your other bills. So I hate to see anybody lose their house or something they've been working towards for 20, 30 years just because, they happen to, break their leg in a certain way that makes it hard for them to work. Um, Long-term care is another thing that a lot of people don't think about. I mean, you should be able to live the life that you want to live. And if you don't take the steps to make sure that you're able to live that, um, you shouldn't necessarily count on that to happen, because it's just a lot of things that, I mean, we live in the country that we live in, and a lot of that is made for you to control yourself. Now, growing up, we weren't taught about that as much. All we were taught was that you need to go to college. Like, that was the most financial thing that I was told was, if you want to make a nice income, go to college and get a degree, which
Right.
is obviously not the case, because a lot of people own their own personal businesses and seem to be doing just fine. Um, but yeah, I mean, long-term care, things that you want, there's just a lot of things towards your future that most people don't really think about actively until it happens to them.
Right. I definitely can see that because I know both of my parents are now disabled and they were never experiencing or planning to be that. And, it took us, it takes a while for your SSI to kick in, even if you get it. And you got to think about how can you take care of yourself through that process. And I went through it with both my parents. So I definitely, like, hey, what he's saying is real deal, y'all. You never know until you get into that situation. And if you do get in that situation, it's always better to be prepared for it. So, we had one comment from Christian Luck, and she asked, "Are there any copies available?" I think she was referring to your budget sheet. Do you have that available to clients? Do they have to go to your Facebook page and like and leave a comment? What how can they get access to that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, if they want to reach out to me on my business page, or shoot, I should have gave you that. I don't know why I didn't think to give you my email address. If they get in contact with me on there, I can send them a copy and just kind of get.
Okay. What's your email address? Give it to me now, and I can type it in.
Yeah, so it's D Mueller, so Mueller 01 at ft dot newyorklife.com. Sorry.
All right. So D Mueller 01 at ft dot is it
New
New
York
York
Life.
Life? Spell
Yep.
it. Spell it
Uh,
all the way out.
yeah, spelled all the way out. .com.
Gotcha. All right. I'm gonna type that in. All right. So yay, people are liking the budget. I actually need me a copy of it
Oh,
if
no, definitely.
if I'm not playing with myself because um like we talk about budgeting and people think say it's a good deal, but how do we do it? What should we budget for? How much do we budget for? And then the biggest question, why are you budgeting? And having those long term goals in place. Because most of us always have the short term. We make our short term financial goals
Oh, yeah.
when we want
Sure.
something,
Exactly.
but it's hard, because we don't think about it. I don't want to say it's hard. It's just that we don't think about it because we don't expect the worst to happen. And not to say that all long term goals should be for preparing for the worst, but it's preparing for anything.
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing is especially when having that conversation with people, they hear agent or they hear life insurance and they automatically like, oh no, here we go again. And unfortunately, what's not talked about enough with it is the way that it works and functions is, whether it's going to a bank or any form of creditor, you have to rely a lot on, on credit scores. Whereas if you start out early enough, especially like the biggest thing is like with your children and you want to look towards college funding or, even if it's not college, like giving them their first, step out into the world without having to feel like they're struggling. That's where these kind of things can come in handy because let's say if it's an IRA, your IRA you can't touch till you're 59 and a half. Um,
Mm.
or I mean, in a 529 plan, which thankfully they're allowing to be rolled into IRAs now. But even then, a 529 has to be designated towards college, right? With things like whole life or variable life products, you can use those in the short term and they don't rely on credit scores. Like you are your own creditor. So how much do you want to take out for yourself and how much do you want to pay back? Those are the only real questions that you have to ask yourself with those kind of products. And, again, with kids, whether it's even like 50 bucks a month that you're trying to put away towards your college, like people think that like this is this big thing that's so far off and intangible and it's not. You can put 25, 50 bucks a month away and have their college funded for their first couple years, or they can put their first down payment on a house. um, that if that's short term or even like 10 years, right, you need to get a new car, you need to use that money for marketing your own business. There's a lot of flexibility in what you're able to do and just not enough people hear about it or talk about it.
All right, these are awesome tips. I hope I have your email address correct.
I'll double check to make sure, but I'm like almost positive it is.
Okay. And then I did put his Facebook page up, guys. I'm gonna have it back up just here shortly so you guys can write that down. If you have any extra questions for David or want to reach out, you're interested in just learning more and learning how you can build for your financial future, definitely reach out to him. He is definitely going to lead you in the right direction, um, and give you the right resources and tools and information that you're going to need to build your best future. We definitely appreciate you just coming on here and sharing this information with us. Because a lot of people you have to go pay. You got to go to some type of conference to go get it. You got to go get a book. But being able to do these type of streams to share this information, kind of can put people in the right direction. Is there anything that we did not talk about that you wanted to touch on before we end the live today?
No, I mean, for the most part, that covers everything. The only other thing I was going to, mention is just like you said, the biggest thing I wanted to do when I got this position is just reach out to the community and give everybody as many tips as possible. Because again, growing up, there weren't really classes for it. I mean, you had to be lucky enough to be at a certain school to have access to those financial classes, and I just want to give as many people as access to this as possible, and just free game, y'all.
Free game that you can definitely use. So I'm super excited. We just completed our first Money Mondays segment. Yay. We've had a good conversation talking about budgeting, earning extra cash, and what do you do with the money that you save from budgeting and the money you earn from extra cash. And we talked about some long term goals and short term goals and what are the difference. And David even shared with us an amazing budgeter worksheet that we can have to help keep our finances on track. If you're interested in that form, make sure you reach out to David. I know he will get it to you and probably some more things that you would need. We will be back here next Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with a new money topic. But if you have any questions or comments, or if you have something that you would like us to talk about, please share it in the comments. Share this video with a friend. We did go live, but we'll definitely be keeping the videos up and making sure that you guys get all the financial information that you need. David, did you have any last words to share with anybody?
No, that's it. Y'all have a great week. We'll see you next Monday.
All right, y'all. See you next Monday. Peace.